Chucky Lozano has been linked with a move to San Diego FC. It was first reported by Tom Bogert. There you see him over at The Athletic, followed up by Rodolfo Landeros at Fox Deportes. The expansion side is expected to pay PSV around $12 million for the 28-year-old Mexican international who would join San Diego for their debut season in 2025. Herc, do we like it for Chucky? Do we like it for San Diego? And do we like it for El Tri?
Ooh, I like what you just said. Okay. Separate these,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I love how you separate it. Do I like it for Chucky Lozano? I do. I like it for Chucky Lozano. Listen, he's been in Europe for going on 7 years. I think clearly his best years when it comes to playing European football are behind him. He had back-to-back seasons of 17 goals scored in the Eredivisie. After that, had a one double-digit season that we see right there, 2020, 2021 with Napoli in all comps where they won the Coppa Italia, I believe. And since that, it's not been the same productivity. He has struggled. He's clearly not the same player since the 2018 World Cup where he had that great moment against Germany, and it was that Chucky Lozano. He's a different type of player right now. For Chucky and his future going forward, to cash in this way with a team like San Diego in Major League Soccer in that area can maybe revive his career in a way that it has for other players who have used Major League Soccer to revive their career. Carlos Vela, Sebastián Giovinco, if you will. You remember when Sebastián Giovinco broke out to Major League Soccer, started scoring goals left and right.
Are you suggesting that this is a pathway to a bigger role for Chucky Lozano with the national team? Because my first thought is, what does it mean for the national team? It means the end.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying it's a way for him to use a lower level to gain confidence and maybe use that going
Which
forward.
is what we kind of thought would happen at PSV.
We did.
But it didn't really occur.
Not yet. Not yet. And listen, they will certainly be champions in the Eredivisie, and he certainly will have another title to his name, but not one where he played a massive part in.
Yeah.
Certainly, if we look at the CONCACAF players at PSV, Malik Tillman, Ricardo Pepi, Serginho Dest, Chucky Lozano, majority of people would have bet on Chucky Lozano being the starlet of that team, being the guy
For sure.
most, especially come from Napoli level down.
Well, especially the money they spent. The money suggested he would be the guy.
That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. Now, do I like this for San Diego? From a marketing standpoint, I do. It makes a splash.
Okay.
You need a splash. But do not compare this to Carlos Vela and LAFC. And the reason I go down this route is because Tom Penn is the president of San Diego FC. He was the president of LAFC, and he was instrumental in bringing Carlos Vela to LAFC. And Carlos Vela was in a much different moment than Chucky Lozano. Carlos Vela is a much different player than Chucky Lozano. Carlos Vela is a very talented player. Chucky Lozano has talent, but he's more of a use my physical attributes to be dangerous. And in this league, unless you supply him with the right type of brain and technical ability around him, it's going to be difficult for him to create things by himself. Carlos Vela was in a different scenario. In a moment with the Mexican national team, he could still step in and be the guy in the Mexican national team if he wanted to. In a moment with Real Sociedad, he was coming off back-to-back seasons where he was very good for Sociedad, and he was sitting at the table with Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and that type of player in La Liga. That's who he was. He's a different player. Chucky Lozano can be a good player, yes. Can he be the same type of player as Carlos Vela was for LAFC? No, I don't see him getting anywhere close to 34 goals, 15 assists that Carlos Vela had in that record year, or maybe doing half of what Carlos Vela has done in his Major League Soccer career. I see that being a little bit more difficult for Chucky Lozano to be that main character on a team.
Yeah, it's bad for the national team in the same way that Carlos Vela coming back was bad, but it's not as important. If you think back to 2018, Juan Carlos Osorio basically built that team around Vela. So to have Vela have a big drop, La Liga to MLS 2018, which is, I think, a much different drop than current Eredivisie to 2024 MLS, 6 months before the World Cup? I think that had a big impact on Vela, and then by default, the national team. This is different because of what Chucky no longer is.
Correct.
And that's the reality. He is no longer A, that guy, but B, no longer does the national team kind of revolve around him. No. So if he drops off a level after the Copa America ahead of the next World Cup, you could say, all right, well, hopefully the other guys on the team, can make it work. For Chucky, I think it's a little bit sad because I think it's his acknowledgement that the European journey has ended, that he's no longer good enough for that level. You remember the conversation we had with Hector Herrera?
I do.
And he told us what Chucky said to him when Achacha, at an older age, came over. He was like, yo, bro, what are you doing? So the fact that Chucky now is willing to consider this tells me, even though he was critical maybe or questioning of somebody else, he's now seeing that this is the same best bet for him. And that, to me, for a guy who clearly wanted to stay in Europe, because not this offer, but another MLS offer was probably available to him last summer. He clearly wanted to stay in Europe, and he's clearly found out he's not at that level anymore. And that's sad for a guy who at one point was destined for, I think, big things.
Yeah, but this is about cycles. Football's about moments, and maybe he can use this to revive his career. Listen, it's not the end-all, be-all at 28 years of age, but certainly it does the Mexican national team no favors, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when you look at the amount of players they have in Europe, a player playing a prominent role like he was at Napoli at one point, or like he was in the Eredivisie when he was there at the beginning, having a player like that leave certainly is a sign of what's to come.